And we are back for this Eternal Tournament Series weekly. This is the 6th week of this first season of the year. I am Sir Rhino, and I've got all the results for this top 8. So we're going to do a quick rundown of who made it, what decks are still playing, and then we'll break down our feature match for this round. Remember, it's the top 8. It's going to be best of 5. These players and single elimination. These players got to bring their A game. So we've got Dr. Stein on Justice Fire Shadow Gunslingers, all 3 factions, 7-0, running undefeated through the Swiss bracket. Ferretsbro at 6-1 with Sky Cragro or Sky Crag Aggro, for those that like to elongate their deck names. Magikarp on Mad Gunslingers, just the pure Stone Scar variant, 6-1. Level 13 David on Ikaria Blue and 6-1. Bruised by God on Xenon midrange / biggish Xenon 5-2. Child Roland also on Mad Gunslingers at 5-2. Trumpets on Ikaria Blue at 5-2. And Drolachek on Blue Armory at 5-2. So whole lot of Ikaria, a whole lot of gunslinging going on in today's tournament. Congrats to all those players. And here to help me bring in and break down this feature match for this first round of the top 8 is IlyaK. How's all this action? How are you handling it, Ilya?
Oh, this is awesome. Fire is probably my favorite faction in Eternal, and so it's cool to see the skies and all the guns blazing as we have 7 fire decks in the top 8, 1 Sky Crag, 3 gunslingers, one of which being tricolor and 2 Stone Scar, and 3 Ikaria Blue decks. So for those that are fans of Eternal's favorite Valkyrie, or just the card Torch, this is going to be a top 8 that you will want to tune in and not miss. And rounding out the competition, we have Bruised by God, comfortable on his big Xenon deck, and in this near 100-person tournament, claiming his space in the top 8 with a big Xenon deck, and we'll have to see how it performs.
Yeah, so the match we'll be bringing you, though, in this first round is Drolachek, who we just saw in the last round, who was in a win-in and just sneaked in as the 8th seed for this top 8. And as a consolation prize, he gets matched up against Dr. Stein, the only undefeated player left standing, going 7-0 with this 3-faction Gunslingers deck that we haven't been able to catch on camera yet, but we know we'd be seeing it in the top 8. And, oh, man, is this a doozy. Talk about a whole stack of haymakers here coming from Dr. Stein that I guess has just been working to perfection so far.
Oh, sure. As someone that's actually tried a variant of this deck on ladder, I have to say, when your draws work out, oh, boy, do they work out. But when your draws don't, suddenly you're looking at a full Rhino hand with a bunch of Stone Scar unplayable units, and you're just very sad. So somehow, Dr. Stein has just been throwing the dice, and they have been coming up 6s. But hey, you don't play Stone Scar unless you've got that gambling element to you, and it's been paying off for him. As we move into this game, Drolachek mulls away his first hand and picks up a very decent one, and I think this is going to be a doozy because we're going to have the sparks fly in.
Yeah, Dr. Stein with a pretty cool power base. No Seek powers, no seats. It's all banners, crests, waystones, common cause. So minimizing depleted power, but not maximizing fixing, but hoping that it can work out anyway. And so far it has. And when it does, man, I've played Unseen Commando into Bandit Queen. It's disgusting. It's totally gross. But here we see that turn 1 Steady Marshal, turn 2 Rakano Outlaw. One of each faction already acquired for Dr. Stein, but not a ton to follow it up. We'll see if it can go the distance against what Drolachek's presenting here. Some card draw with Strategize and Wisdom and a harsh rule ready to go.
Right, and Drolachek looks to be perfectly set up to absorb this initial event with this Sword of Ikaria and this harsh rule, and even a second Sword of Ikaria.
Yeah, he's got some sort of Ikarias, but those are expensive to deal with these 1 and 2 drops from Dr. Stein, and you can only take so much chip damage from this deck because it's all 3 factions of Gunslingers. It's playing Whirling Duo, Bandit Queen, and Vicious Highwayman. if you take a little too much damage, which is happening here from Drolachek, right? His removal spell just got countered by a torch. Once you're too low, it's over. They're going to draw these charge units and finish you off.
Right. So Dr. Stein, again, his draw looked to be a little light on action, but he's just been picking up the necessary cards as he's going along. And Drolachek very much on the back foot, staring down another 6 damage just from 1-2-1 with a torch. Has to play at the second Sword of Icaria will take down this Rhino Outlaw, but he's already at 8 before he can even harsh rule, and we'll have to see how things stack up. But Dr. Stein committing a 5-5 into a harsh rule, saying, I can't beat a harsh rule with a 5-5 that will probably have spot removal to follow up. He better have it. Well, he had it, and now you're in all sorts of trouble as 8 is not 0, and a Strategize is going to pick up a second harsh rule.
Yeah, Drolachek opting to strategize before wisdoming. That's always a contentious ordering of do you use the cheap one or the more expensive one that actually is a draw 2 first. And is going to put away a wisdom. And yeah, Dr. Stein's fortune finally runs out, at least at this point. Needs to find some threats, but Drolachek sitting at 8 means he's going to need back-to-back charge units or something like that, while he's just got a pair of slays with nothing to kill.
Right. And those slays are important because when Icaria comes out, you're going to need to shoot her down.
There's the first one.
There's the first charge unit in the form of a Bandit Queen. End of the road, friend? Well, not quite. This Vanquish is just...
dead. Drolachek has to use Harsh Rule here. Because he used Strategizes over Wisdom last turn, won't be able to use any other spells this turn, but gains a life, goes up to 5, means Vicious Highwayman's the only lethal draw here, as Dr. Stein finds just a Waystone that'll hold on to. And Drolachek finds an Island's Choice as a clean answer to a charge, or most charge threats. It kills Queen and Highwayman, doesn't answer Whirling Duo.
But this Hammer sure will, and there's the Bandit Queen, and that's just going to get eaten up by this Island's.
There we see Island's Choice showing up just in time, or maybe Bandit Queen showing up not on time, as it gets eaten by the choice. And now Drolachek's the world's his oyster. A whole lot of card draw in hand, some removal. Could even go Rise here if he wants to just find the Icaria as soon as possible. We'll see what he's thinking about. Also, this is the Armory variant, so could look up something like a Throne Warden to try and get a little more health in the tank. So a lot of options here for Drolachek. What are you thinking about doing if you're in his spot?
So right now, if I'm Drolachek, I'm thinking if I rise, I am just stone cold dead to any of 4 Vicious Highwaymen that are still in the deck. But he's going to actually take the risk and rise to the challenge. For a Sword of Icaria, so he can immediately swing in while staying alive against a charging unit. Out comes a Whirling Duo, and this is going to prompt this Auric Runehammer and that out, as Dr. Stein is going to need to draw even more charge units to remain.
I think I would have preferred to see Wisdom before hammering. Like, this ordering makes no sense. You know you're going to use a hammer. Why not Wisdom first and see what you draw? And now down comes the Vicious Highwayman. Here's all these charge units we were talking about lining up in a row, getting Drolachek dangerously low, down to 2. And see, like, if you had drawn with Wisdom first, maybe you, like, hold up Vanquish or do some things differently.
Or hold up this Lightning Strike.
Yeah. And, a lot of power, but he's got a Lightning Strike, but you've got to use Vanquish on Highwayman, hold up a Lightning Strike for the next charge threat. But you're in torch range now too, but instead it's just a pistol as the draw for Stein here.
So Drolachek by no means out of the water. Just because you stabilized for the moment does not mean you've won the game.
No.
And every single unit off the top of Dr. Stein's deck is going to be presenting all. This Champion of Glory is going to eat a Lightning Strike.
Right.
But Drolachek is just the inevitable torch away from certain death.
Dr. Stein is wisely there, not putting on the pistol. It's already a lethal threat. Don't put it into Island's choice range. But now also drew power last turn, but it was a shadow source. So that means this Waystone will work this turn. Takes Drolicek down to 1, and crucially will give Dr. Stein 2 more draws to try and find Drolicek's doom next turn as he draws even more power. 15 power, 16 power drawn for Drolicek this game.
Right, and Drolicek just needs to stay alive.
There it is.
Right now, he's even dead to a vicious highwayman's ping.
How about a torch?
There's the torch off the top.
Yeah, and Dr. Stein might be checking deck lists, but you're just gonna torch here. Don't even give him a shot. And man, Drolicek drew a lot of cards, but not quite enough action to turn this around. And that's what you're talking about. Stein stalled out there for a few turns, and then it was just queen, highwayman, charge, and it added up. Even with the lightning strikes and Island's choices and weapons, it just wasn't quite enough.
Right. I mean, that's what you have to do against these control decks. That if you give them a turn to untap and point a spell speed piece of interaction at your units, they will happily do so. But if they're just going to sit behind a bunch of spell speed spells or slow spells, to put it more understandably, that you're just going to chip with a charge unit, chip with a charge unit, chip with a charge unit, and each of them are essentially going to be sabotaged with damage attached to it.
Yeah. So this is a best of 5, so no sideboarding just yet. We're going to jump right back into game 2 and see if Drolicek can even up the series or if Dr. Stein will be able to take a commanding 2-0 lead. And looking at these hands, I don't know if they've mulliganed yet, but
Drolicek is mulliganing his first and draws into this is rough.
This is rough on both ends.
Oh, wow. So,
yeah, we're going to be both players looking for power of different kinds, right? Dr. Stein's got plenty of power, but as you said, needs that influence. So far away from double shadow for that instigator, but has castable threats in the meantime, right? Double steady Marshall showing up here. Those are 2/3s. That's pressure. And Drolicek is stalled out, also needs influence and power, and just has a torch right now that's castable. I guess this favors the player that can actually cast their spells, huh?
A torch is the draw for the turn for Drolicek. Let's to torch the Rhino outlaw that's not attacking, but take more damage for his trouble. Picks up that crucial first justice source, and he's going to need a lot more where that came from, because 2 harsh rules, Rise and Hammer, mean that he needs to get to deal with this board fast, as 3 units to no presence is not where you want to be.
All right. Rhino Artisan's a speed bump, but that's it. It's not helping you draw power. It's just simply able to chump block a 4/4 and save you a little bit of health, try and buy you a bit of time. But you're already down to 13, and your opponent's got 5 units in play. He's staring at lethal. There's a justice source to let him cast Runehammer. I haven't done the math, but he needs to draw another undepleted power source next turn to have a shot here, or he's dead.
Right. It's looking precarious. However, Dr. Stein crucially missing that shadow. But
there it is, power, but it's depleted. You're a 3-faction deck. You're going to draw some depleted power and an army of steady marshals. It ain't pretty, but it got the job done in a game of ugly draws on both sides. The player that could cast cheap units that can attack and block comes out victorious. And Dr. Stein's got a commanding 2-0 lead in this series. And now the ball's in Drolicek's court to find out a good sideboard plan to come back after being down 2-0 to start this series.
Right. An ugly win is still a win. And we're seeing why Dr. Stein never know, because at the end of the day, even if the card comes out a turn late, you have things like Slay and Hideout Pistol and Torch all in the same deck, and you're putting on as much removal pressure as a removal pile while attacking things with 2 champions and the best of Rhino, aggro, and Stone Scar. If those draws come even close to working, that's just a whole lot of pain in far too short an order. Meanwhile, it's up to Drolicek to pull off a reverse sweep. And looking at the sideboard, Vision of Austerity, completely dead. Valkyrie Enforcer, better be coming in. Staff of Stories, worthless. Another Ikaria, as we saw in that first game, you can definitely get to Ikaria power and still not have the game decided.
And you even have something like Lightning Storm, but it's killing very few of your opponent's units. You're up against a deck with 12 2-drops. You'd think Lightning Storm would be good. It only kills Outlaw. And I mean, the thing is, Champion of Glory doesn't always have 3 health. And I think that's where you've got to bank on here, is hoping, like, bring in Lightning Storm. It can clean up Queens and Highwaymans. I think it's got to be better than some of your other options that are at least in deck or in the sideboard, even if it's not killing everything.
Having spoken with Manuel about how he sideboards against aggro, he likes cutting Ikaria altogether. Certainly, he has to keep in as much low-cost interactions such as torches. However, I do wonder if these Rhino artisans are not long for this world, because ultimately all of his weapons are going to one-shot a unit anyway, and you really do not want to be hitting them with Ikaria. And so I'm thinking -4 artisan immediately.
No, I can't sign off on that. I'm thinking what I want to start cutting first is Wisdom of the Elders.
That's also a good point.
You have 8 draw 2s in your deck. Do you really need that much against an aggro deck that's going to apply this kind of pressure? Do you have time to cast all of these and spin your wheels? I don't think so. I think you've got to trim some of this card draw before you start trimming any bodies or interaction. Just because you just, that's a luxury that I don't think you can afford in this kind of match.
I understand what you're saying. I just don't think a 2-1 even blocks anything there, because you have a 3-1 quick draw, a 2-3, a 2-2 quick draw. These things are speed bumps at best, and as we saw in game 1, you still need to turn the corner because you can't just stabilize when there are 12 charge units in that deck.
Yeah.
So,
but it's also about buffing your weapons, right? If that does matter. It's not, it's not always the biggest deal, but I don't think you can discount it. That's why you play the card. Yes, it's a 2-1 body. Sometimes it does things. Lots of matchups it does nothing, but it's buffing all the weapons in your deck. And even if that doesn't mean you're getting more 2-for-1s with your weapons, it's still getting you 1 extra life whenever you do draw a weapon. And that can add up.
Right. Yeah, so, different takes on how the game should go, but we're in game 3, and Drolicek is looking, at a hand you just, that's where you want to be as a control deck. Early game interaction, harsh rule, card draw, all your at least one of each influence. So we'll have to see how this shapes up, but as we see, the wisdom stayed, and wonder what went.
Yeah, again, he may have just shaved a couple wisdom and happened to draw all of them, or he kept in all 8 draw spells. We're not sure, but Drolicek needs to find a second primal influence off this strategize. Does not, so bottoms a wisdom away. And Dr. Stein, in the meantime, is looking still for a second fire source to unlock the royal 4-drops that are in his deck. But in the meantime, has a board presence, maybe not the ideal board presence. Champion of Glory not hitting as hard as you'd like. Champion of Chaos not buffed at all. But it's something as Drolicek deploys out the Artisan and torches down a champion.
So turns out I was wrong about siding out the Artisans, and we still see some Wisdoms. So now we have an interesting board in our hands, and Drolicek has the option of silencing this Champion of Glory, this silencing the Rhino Outlaw, or
strategize and torching. Yeah.
So it looks like he's going to strategize for power. I guess we see that we're going to see. I think we're going to see the second Wisdom get sent to the bottom. No,
to get rid of choice. Sure, you're tight on power, but you are losing out on an answer to these charge units. I do like the strategize here. You don't really want to miss power when you've got a harsh rule and a wisdom in hand. So the torch comes out and boom, let's dance. Whirling duo off the top. So Dr. Stein's still waiting for that fire source, but in the meantime, getting some pressure down, no doubt about it. As this dice show freshly buffed from that artisan. Not a terrible draw here, but IlyaK is okay. Gonna deploy the enforcer this turn, get the depleted power out. Encourage Dr. Stein to commit more to the board before using harsh rule.
Right. Against a deck that can pressure you all game, these harsh rules are at a premium, and so you have to save every single one of them.
But will you use one here? 2 units on board, 5 damage a turn coming out, and a rune hammer on top, and he'll keep it on top. And yeah, use that harsh rule. Now Dr. Stein's unlikely to be able to deploy 2 units a turn going forward, and that'll make your weapons much stronger.
Well, here's the second source of fire. So we'll see if Dr. Stein makes the heads up play and goes to the Bandit Queen. No, unfortunately, he's not aware of the Star Steel die.
Well, Highwayman's more upfront damage. You do miss out on the ability for Highwayman to ping away like a Artisan if that would end up being the draw. But yeah, now you take less damage overall because the hammer blocks it, and down comes Queen, cleans up this hammer, but and yeah, this dice show will start to pressure here. You've got to imagine.
Right. 10 damage a turn is no joke. I'm gonna see this dice show come up, clean up this Bandit Queen. That power is gonna get sent to hurry. And now there's a 5-2 dice show, and
Nine whiffs bottoms is praying to find a charging unit, but now IlyaK gets to cast Wisdom here, gets a face Aegis to not worry about Torch.
This is where you want to be as a Rakano control player, JFS or Aria Blue. Dice show, facial Aegis, another hammer.
I missed what he kept on top. Power. Yeah, he scouted off that crest and kept something on top. It's got to be a charging, and there it is. Vicious Highwayman pops the Aegis on the face, takes out the dice show, and that'll get answered by the rune hammer. But Dr. Stein still technically got a shot here.
Certainly. But this Rakano artisan that got picked up is going to say, I can chump block one more charge unit.
Unless it's another Highwayman. But it's just Slay. But that will keep Dr. Stein alive. That kills the artisan, means hammer only gets in for 5. But a lightning strike is going to do a good job of closing the door on Dr. Stein's chances here as he draws an instigator, which on death will kill him.
Right. Yeah, that Emerald Waystone doesn't have the influence, and so single shot is all it takes. But not for not killing your opponent. So that is game victory 1 for IlyaK. So he still has to run back 2 more. That was a close match, and we saw that Throne Warden get picked up at the end. But it looked a little bit like Dr. Stein flooded a little bit there at the end. When you're keeping up with the control deck, that's not exactly where you want to be with aggressive type deck, whether you call an aggro or a mid-range.
We also saw that Dr. Stein still had a Slay that game, right? He played one that game post-board, which against this deck is a little surprising considering they're just playing Artisans and Throne Wardens, Valkyrie Enforcer, Ikaria. I'm surprised to see Slay still kept in over other options that you could have brought in, like Sabotage.
Right. I think if you're an aggressive player, you have to think that your control opponent is going to start and shave a bit on the top end. So that the Ikarias are out, the couple of Ikarias are out of the deck. At the same time, even if only one remains, she's just a rise to the challenge away. So you might need to keep in a couple of slays just to answer in case your opponent does go.
But the thing is, like, you already have 4 hideout pistol, 4 torch, like, as removal too. So it's like, I would much rather have hideout pistols in this matchup than slays as far as removal, because it can just double up its reach in a pinch anyways.
Right. Yeah, I see what you're saying. That said, I do think that when it comes to just being straight removal, that hideout pistol is not as good as slay, because if you have a Risen Ikaria, that's a 7/5. You are not shooting her down.
Sure. So here we go. Game number 4 is underway. Dr. Stein holds the 2-1 lead. So if he takes this, he takes the match. And Drolicek's fighting for his life, and he's got that turn 2 Artisan. Looks like pretty good power, missing out on double primal for now. But speaking of good power, Dr. Stein with that double common cause opening means he's going to hit all the influence he wants for now. He won't have double shadow, but he still has a very nice curve here and hits double shadow with that Amethyst Waystone anyway. So Whirling Duo, this is the curve we have not seen from Dr. Stein yet. 2 drop into 3 drop into 4 drop. This is some strong pressure.
Oh yes, like this is why you're playing this deck. Start off for Rhino, now you're Stone Scar, and because you're on the play, you still have that sabotage. In between that turn 4 and 5, and we're gonna see this harsh rule being not long for this world and not in the way that Drolicek intends it to be.
Yeah, but Dr. Stein is drawing quite a bit of power here. He draws his 7th power for the game, and that's if he can't keep up enough pressure, Drolicek could find the opening. But as you said, crucially, being on the play means he got to play Queen and then sabotage the next turn on his 5th power before Drolicek gets to theirs. And Drolicek has a Wisdom stranded in hand, does not have double primal influence, and will have to torch this duo and hope that his top decks bail him out, because Dr. Stein's top decks aren't doing him any favors right now either.
So Dr. Stein throwing out that Amethyst Waystone needs that extra bit of gas from Nightfall. However, that gives Drolicek Valkyrie Enforcer, and we'll see if that card comes out or if he's saving that for a crucial. In the meantime, 2 dead Wisdoms in his hand to influence unknown Achilles heel of this Ikaria.
Yeah, Drolicek not even playing out the Valkyrie Enforcer there. Not sure what he's saving it for. Maybe a champion or something, but yeah, he gets punished hard.
Oh, yes. Saving it for something like a Champion of Glory. And out comes the hideout pistol, and now Drolicek has to make a choice here, and he has to just play this Enforcer as a blocker, and fortunately, Dr. Stein is just power on power on power on power.
Yeah, that is his 10th power this game, and his power base means he has lots of, some of these powers turn into things. We saw Nightfall from the Waystone. We saw Granite from this Granite Waystone, but that's not quite enough. And Drolicek finds a Lightning Storm to clean up this board, kills both the Bandit Queen and the Granite in here.
Oh yes, that is a Lightning Storm from heaven. And,
I like holding back with Enforcer here.
Do I go in? And the answer is, well, my opponent's on 8 power, so whatever he drew would have come out by now.
Yeah, but they can still top deck charge units. So I think I would have just waited to swing until Ikaria came down. Now I would swing with Valkyrie Enforcer. You'll always have Ikaria back, and Valkyrie Enforcer can't block Champion of Glory anyways. Right.
Yeah, so we'll have to see if Drolicek is going to go for the rather than the how do I not lose, how do I win this game? And so he sees the line and he's just going to send in both units. We hear the Ikaria War Prize zing off, and there's 8 in the air with 5/5 Aegis blocker, and Whirling Duo off the top is not going to do it in the face of the card. But Dr.
He's
Stein
just going to ace base anyways.
Through it. Get him for 3.
Yeah, 26-6, but I think Drolicek's in a pretty commanding spot here. Even draws a Cobalt Waystone, even wants to get a face Aegis on top of it all. and has a wisdom and a strategize that he'll start firing off, but wants to get an extra Warcry 5 first before drawing into whatever goodies might be lying on top of the deck.
Yeah, Drolicek very much respecting the fact that his opponent is now, going nuts and just jamming units even to their doom, and picks up a 12-11 Rakano Artisan. Because, of course, that's what you hit with Icaria when those two are in the same deck, right?
And he opts to bottom that face. He just wants both Wisdom of the Elders here still and holding them up because, nobody respects good timing of Wisdom of the Elders anymore, apparently. Like, you could have had a face Aegis. You missed out on it for a whole turn. Now you get to get rid of it with strategize. And Dr. Stein's at 21, and let's do a quick count here. That's 20 damage on board plus a torch, although I imagine he would chump block this Artisan. But if Drolicek just digs for a removal spell, he can have lethal. Instead, he's going to draw last because, again, nobody respects this sacred order of proper sequencing.
Cast your wisdoms and your draw spells first if you know you're going to be drawing cards that turn.
Yeah. But now Drolicek goes strategize first, then wisdom, hopes to find a torch. Doesn't, so Dr. Stein lives for another turn, but I think the writing's on the wall on this one. Don't see any outs for him.
Unanswered Icaria and her war cries. That's going to be all she wrote.
And we're tied up 2-2. Might have started out at the bottom, but now we're here. Drolicek's even 2-2, and this match is going to go to Game 5 for all the marbles.
For all the marbles, so let's see if the Gunslinger's luck holds up one more time, because when you're playing an aggro deck, you're really hoping to get ahead in those early games. Your opponent doesn't have a deck specifically tailored to answer you. Now that Drolicek has the Lightning Storms, has the Enforcers, it's not getting any easier. And having been on the receiving end of a reverse sweep playing an aggro deck, I can tell you it feels awful. But I think this deck is at a higher power level than.
Yeah, the threat quality is very high for its curve for Dr. Stein's deck, but it's just been drawing a few too much power and not quite enough threats in these past two games. He'll hope his fortune turns around because he's had some. It's odd because in the first two games he didn't have super great openings, but he also just had consistent pressure and closed out the games. These past two games he had amazing openings and just did not draw well into the mid game to keep the pressure coming.
Right. 28 power is actually fairly light if I'm doing my adding correctly. 4 Amethyst Waystones, 2 Argenport Banners make 6, 4 Common Cause makes 10, 4 Crests of Chaos makes 14, 4 Emerald Waystones makes 18.
There's an easy way to shortcut this. 4 times 6 is 24, right? But we see 1, 5, 6, so that's 24 plus 4 more, 28. Boom. Don't even have to.
28 power should not be flooding out this much, but again, that's why you play the games, and sometimes you just need your opponent to break a couple of turns while Icaria just
go.
I mean, her name, if you pronounce it incorrect, is Icaria, and that's what she's been doing for a while today for several players.
Yep, but here we go. Game number 3. Dr. Stein keeps a 3-power hand, a pair of sabotages, and a champion to back him up. And we'll see if fortune favors his bold choice today. Drolicek, in the meantime, strategizing and has nice fixing power, card draw, and some okay answers in the form of a dice show and enforcer, but not the cheap removal you're hoping for in this matchup.
Oh, definitely. However, this Valkyrie Enforcer is just going to come out and say, I have a 3-3, you have a 2-3, and a 1-1. You're not going anywhere. And the longer this board remains stalled out, the more time that Drolicek has to play power and get to those Icarias.
Yeah, this Valkyrie Enforcer stonewalling the 2-3 and 1-1. It's the biggest unit on board. And Dr. Stein had the sabotage, but it wasn't going to hit this rune hammer that just got pulled off the top regardless. And now Drolicek is in a commanding position this game, but an Argenport banner off the top. doesn't let him cast this Vicious Highwayman and instead will pull the trigger on Sabotage and maybe Suicide Swing here. It means you're giving up a unit, but you're not going to give up your commando, crucially, to this Auric Runehammer.
Right. One way or another, you're losing a unit to this Auric Runehammer, and if you don't kill it, it's coming for your commando. So,
wow. Okay, just opts instead to play nothing. That's a little surprising considering you saw no other removal in their hand, and Unseen Commando can swing into a Valkyrie Enforcer.
Right. I question that play.
Yeah, that's pretty conservative in my eyes. Now, it would have gotten hit by this torch, but now your opponent still has an Enforcer in play. I mean, I guess they got to cast these draw spells, so you get to sabotage whatever answers they draw, but they're also going to keep drawing more cards. It doesn't stop. They're a control deck, right? You got to pick your openings.
Right. That's what, playing aggro is about. That, you didn't come here to not attack. You came here to kill your opponent. So kill your opponent.
Yeah. And, he is thinking on this sabotage, or Drolicek was thinking about casting Wisdom or Torch in response. Lets it resolve. Torch gets nabbed, and now Dr. Stein has the option of bashing in with the duo or setting up the commando. And here we see the commando gets set up. Hold those charge units that are highly valuable against this armory deck and against this harsh rule deck, and try and get your opponent to play some other removal first.
So Drolicek sitting on a harsh rule, an artisan, strategize Wisdom, and this Enforcer might as well be a 3/100 for all the stalling it's doing, because so far it's just been, I don't know how many turns, but it's essentially been, take 3 extra turns after this one, and on a 3-cost card. That's just amazing.
Yeah, Drolicek's looking to play his 6 power this turn, and it's still at 21 health. That's a pretty nice spot to be when now you have the luxury of casting Throne Wardens and Harsh Rules going forward. And it's looking like he's debating what to do here off of this strategize.
I bought him this Rhino Artisan in a heartbeat, really, because you want the power for Ikaria, you want the Wisdom so you can draw cards, you want Harsh Rule because obviously, and then Throne Warden is going to gain you more life. So.
And more bizarre Wisdom the Elder sequencing. Like, play the power, doesn't cast Wisdom. What if you draw a depleted Crest here? And you would have much rather played that than a Sigil. Just, I don't know. Some people just live to annoy me with their card draw and power sequencing. But alas, the Whirling Duo comes down, takes Drolicek down to 13. I think it might be time to lay down some Harsh Rule here.
Yeah, this blast is coming down. Is Dr. Stein with 1 card in hand and says, I am ripping this one. He's going to take 5 for his trouble, but considering the texture of his hand, probably the last 5 damage he's taken, because Throne Warden, Island's Choice.
Yeah, Island's Choice was a great draw here. It lets you play Valkyrie Enforcer as a potential blocker for Vicious Highwayman anyways, and you get to hold up Choice. If you're playing Throne Wardens, all right, you gain 4 and you're just offering the trade on Highwayman. It's not like you have any other units that could die to give it quick draw, so that's not really a threat here.
Right.
So you're just going to use Throne Warden as a removal spell that gains you 4.
So trade offered, trade happily accepted. A 3/3 Rhino Outlaws coming down, and Drolicek, rather than deploy the second in Throne Warden, is just going to throw out another Enforcer, and he's already drawn all 3 of his sideboard Enforcers. Bandit Queen comes down to push some damage. He's going to eat an Island, and 4 is going to get through, but again, 8 is not 0.
Yep, and now Drolicek finds a Wisdom for this turn, but I think we might see the Throne Warden come down anyways, just to buff up your health again. But Wisdom does get you closer to casting Ikaria sooner, and you could still pair it with an Enforcer, but nah, he takes the Throne Warden line instead and cracks in with the Valkyrie Enforcer.
Right, you're gonna have time to draw cards later, but you need all the life you can get right now.
And boom, Rakano
There's
banner
Ikaria.
off the top means Ikaria can come down. Slay just got used on an enforcer, but this is not looking good for Dr. Stein. It's going to be tough to come back on this one. The Rune
Oh my
Hammer
gosh.
was buffed, immediately drawn, and that means Drolicek can both play a threat like Valkyrie Enforcer and play Auric Runehammer to start clearing this board. Goes up to 10 armor on his
Yeah, and
top of
that's
his
18
health.
health staring down an Ikaria when you're drawing off the top of your.
Yeah.
There's no
And
way you're getting through this as an aggro.
yeah, it's
So
looking like Drolicek is gonna pull off this reverse sweep unless something insane happens, like a power outage or a meteor event kind of
right,
thing.
there is no way that I don't think there's any who's winning this game under any.
Yeah, and there we see the scoop. So, woof, 2-0 start for Stein turns into a 2-3 defeat at the hands of Drolicek. So that is the first match lost for Dr. Stein today. And ironically, if it was a best of 3, it would have been a match win. But that is the beauty of best of 5. You make your adjustments and you come back ready to go. And it ended up favoring Drolicek, who pulls off the reverse sweep in a pretty convincing fashion.
Right. I mean, ultimately, when you're running more than 25 power, there's actually a chance that you can draw a little too much of it, and that's exactly what we saw happen. And when your opponent has an Ikaria on you and you're an aggro, that's rough. And congratulations to Drolicek for pulling off the epic comeback. Congratulations to Dr. Stein for making top 8, but he's going to have some things to think about after today's exit. And as usual, the Swiss undefeated deck goes down in the first round. I think in the top 8. I think that's been a pretty common pattern.
Yeah, it didn't happen last week, but I think the 2 weeks before that it did. So it's it's anybody's game. Just because you were on a hot streak throughout the early rounds doesn't mean it's going to continue once you get to the best of 5s, and that's how we saw it play out there. But with that was our last match outstanding. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with the top 4. Only 4 players left. A whole lot more Ikaria and Gunslingers coming your way in the next round.
Listen.